Want to know what your dog is thinking?
Have a challenging dog behavior you need help with?
The Dish on Dogs is your source for all your canine questions.
Improve your relationship with your dog and deepen your understanding of your furry friend. Right here on the Dish on Dogs.
Welcome everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Dish on Dogs, the podcast all about dogs. I'm your host, Mike Gould, frequently known as the mayor of Houndstown, USA. Houndstown, USA, for those of you just listening and don't know what Houndstown is a fully interactive daycare, pet care facility with locations all over the country now. And we're expanding. You know, we're in very difficult times, as we all know, going through COVID, and we have our foot on the gas and we're expanding throughout the country. Since our inception, we've taken care of over 1.5 million dogs, and we haven't slowed down even during these difficult times. So with the expansion, I am happy to have two of our most recent franchisees, franchise partners with us, and I have Jeff and Stephanie from Nashville, Tennessee, y'all. So they're here. It's not you guys, it's y'all. So welcome, y'all. This is Jeff, the lovely Stephanie. Welcome to the Dish on Dogs.
Great. Thank you. Great to be here.
Great. Stephanie, and by the way, they're here. We're at our corporate headquarters here. We're locked in a little room at our corporate headquarters. And here we do our training, our corporate training. And this is the initial training franchisees get. So before we get into that, tell us a little about your journey, what you did, how you got here, why are you sitting in this little smelly room with me, talking about Houndstown.
Absolutely. So journey started several years ago during undergrad and college. Knew I wanted to go out in the corporate world and get some experience, but long term I knew I had an entrepreneurial flair. Definitely wanted to own my own business, wanted to do my own thing. Got the experience I needed. Looked at franchises for a long time. Looked at restaurants. Looked at other things that to me just were not sustainable. Looking for something long term. Pet care industry has been booming for years. Nashville is such a dog-friendly city, so the combination of the two, the business model, the point of differentiation from some of the other franchises, I was sold.
Right. And you've been in the corporate world yourself. Your current life is
Correct.
What do you do now that you're...
I'm in sales for a snacks company, soon to be an olive oil company. So I have big consumer products experience, working at both headquarters and field sales level.
Okay, great. So, and introduce Stephanie, what her role is going to be in your franchise.
Okay. I currently am going to be the owner, operator. Stephanie Gray is going to be my GM.
Nice.
I'll let her tell a little bit about herself and her background.
You have a very interesting background, right? So tell everybody what you do down in Nashville.
Yes, I have been in hospitality and live entertainment marketing for about 14 years. So that's what I currently do for about 2 more weeks.
Oh, wow. So you're really plunging into the Houndstown. But when specifically, don't you have you specifically where what venues do you just in general do it? Or you have a considerable amount of marketing experience in hospitality, but more so entertainment.
Yeah, in live entertainment. Currently, I work for Ryman Auditorium in
That's
Nashville.
what I was waiting for. And here's what you got to straighten out for me. Is that the Grand Ole Opry or not?
It is not.
All right, that's my problem. That is exactly my problem in life. I was in Nashville one time. I bought tickets. No, I thought I was buying tickets. I wanted to go to the Grand Ole Opry, and it was out near the airport somewhere, and it was like an old museum. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. That's the current Grand Ole Opry.
Oh, okay, right.
It did have a place at the Ryman Auditorium many, many years ago.
Oh, temporarily.
Yes.
So does the Grand Ole Opry operate now or no? Or is it just... Okay,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
There's two. So there's a Grand Ole Opry and the Ryman Auditorium. Okay, and the Ryman is right down in downtown.
Right in the heart of downtown. We're a concert venue that hosts, when it's not COVID, about 300 events a year. Right.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. For those of you who haven't been to Nashville, Nashville is really one of the most beautiful cities. It's got its very, very uniqueness. It's not like a cookie cutter, just like Houndstown's not a cookie cutter franchise. Nashville's not a cookie cutter city. It's got its own spirit, its own... It just got its own energy. So that's really exciting. So then, Jeff, you being the entrepreneur, and I do believe that having interacted with you a long time, I do sense that you do have that entrepreneur spirit. And I kind of gauge that based on the considerable setbacks we have had, you have had. So talk a little about that. So, there's the Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And when people get involved in a franchise, they think they're going to do this, and they pick a date, and by Christmas we'll be open and have puppies. So that is far from what happened with
Absolutely.
you. So talk about that, especially for people that would ever be interested in franchising, but your fellow franchisees, because they're struggling too with challenges, but they don't compare to yours. So talk about that.
Absolutely. And how it started is, you come into the system, you think, well, I can beat the system. I can accelerate my timeline. I can really work through the obstacles quicker than most people. You have a lot of confidence in yourself. You know your vision, what you want to do. In Nashville in particular, because it's such a booming, vibrant city, the commercial real estate was a big challenge from the start. And you know exactly what I'm talking about with making a couple of visits that you did. The obstacles I was running into based on the territory I had in Metro Nashville were two obstacles specifically. One, getting a 10-year lease was a tough obstacle, simply because Nashville pre-COVID was booming and everyone wanted the opportunity to develop or sell in 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely.
So that was a tough thing. Price was another thing, obviously, just based on the square footage. And then the third thing is, once you found something that was viable, actually having the permission or endorsement of the landlord for the dog usage.
Absolutely.
So the combination of, I guess, those three factors instead of two ended up taking about 9 months to secure a location. I had letters of intent on 4 or 5 different properties, and they were all viable, great locations, but for whatever reason, one or another, it fell out.
Right. And it's typical, because these emerging cities, like you say, whether it's Nashville, wherever it is, landlords don't want to make a commitment to lease their property for 10 years. So you finally found that, and then you found a great location, and then the cities, each municipality has a set of rules and regulations.
Absolutely.
Then on top of that, tornado. Right. So explain a little bit about that. And really most important to me, because what I'm most admire about it is this is extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
But you've gone through it, and that kind of tells me what an entrepreneur kind of has to do. So talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Once we were able to secure our location, then we knew we were going to be up against 12 plus weeks for permitting. So I had a challenge that, I think a lot of franchisees in the past and future franchisees don't have, is I had a brand new building, or I have a brand new building, blank slate, no mechanical, no electrical, no plumbing. So, when I had a brand new building, I was looking at potential contractors. I initially went with the builder of the building, thinking he knew it best.
Right, which is logical. That made sense. Right.
Well, the combination of that and then some other things coming with pre-COVID, et cetera, tornadoes, and then just to find out that this contractor was bigger scale type. This was out of his realm.
Right, absolutely. And that was another part of the booming part of Nashville. So contractors, they're building hotels and they're building professional centers. Right. So to build a 6,000 or 7,000 square foot doggy daycare facility was kind of below their pay grade. And there's always some conflict going back and forth with people's ideas and butting heads and them getting, there was a couple of items I remember looking at, whether it was a desk in the lobby or something that was just it was built, as I said, for a lobby in a hotel maybe, but not a doggy daycare.
100%. It was very much over-engineered. And once we got to the point where we got the permits, I actually pivoted, switched contractors. We were able to par that down to a point where timeline was more reasonable, and most importantly, cost was more reasonable. Right. Because that was my biggest obstacle.
Of course, and cost is...
And just for instance, with my HVAC system, mechanical system, nothing in place, some of the equipment I had was from Germany that was in my original mechanical plans that had a 4 to 6 week lead time.
Right. But not only the 4 to 6 week lead time, and I don't remember correctly, but your initial, might not be for everybody who care, they don't care. Yeah. But to me, it's important. Your original air condition estimate was what? About when they first started with the engine, whatever the hell it was.
$120,000.
Right. So it's a $120,000 estimate, which of course, that makes me quiver. It makes you really cringe more. But the bottom line was, through your perseverance, and you didn't, get crazy about it. Right. You worked with our construction manager, and you were able to pare it down to about what? Where are we at now?
We're 50,000.
Right. So that's a pretty amazing. That's not chump change. So it's not like you were trying to nickel and dime contractors where they said 120 and you said 110. So you're going to get this project on the air condition aspect of it for $50,000. You save $70,000 on that.
Yes.
So that's pretty impressive. And I'm hoping, so here you are, both of you and Stephanie are here for our corporate training because you're getting ready to open. We got a projected opening date of October, middle of October, end of October.
Yes.
So first of all, where is it located? Where is the doggy daycare? What's the address?
So Doggy Daycare is 288 Hermitage Avenue, Unit C, Nashville 37210. And we are 0.8 miles directly east of downtown. So if you have the Lower Broad, it's 0.8 miles directly east, right along the river.
Right.
Great location, one exit off of 40. It's between downtown and the airport.
Yeah. It's really one of the most convenient locations from the metropolitan area, both coming and going. You could literally step out onto Hermitage Avenue, look down, and you see the city of Nashville.
There's a skyline right there.
You see the skyline. So it's a really cool location. So we talked about the franchise. Why the pet care? Why Houndstown compared to other pet care? Why not a PetSmart or whatever other things are out there?
Well, a big thing, we have a rescue dog, so we've taken our dog to a facility a few times, and I looked at it from a consumer standpoint. Me being a consumer, what was important to me, and a lot of the transparency piece for me was huge with the way you guys run your facilities, your motto, your core values, and Stephanie can attribute. We actually had a pretty decent facility, but we didn't like necessarily the way the dog was handled, all the a la carte upcharges.
Right.
And we just felt like we just weren't getting a value, or the dog wasn't getting a great experience.
Right.
So as I looked at that and looked at myself from a consumer standpoint, I think about all the dog lovers and dog owners around Nashville and just how that would translate, and they're just looking for something like that in the city.
Right. No, completely.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie, you add on to that. Obviously, you have that same experience. You guys went to another pet care facility, and I know that our competitors, the main complaint is you need an accountant to figure out the bill by the time you take your dog home, or they exploit your emotions, meaning if you don't buy the dog an ice cream cone, you're an evil human being, and we know that's not the case. So do you share what Jeff is saying in terms of?
I do, absolutely. The place that we had taken our rescue dog to prior, we didn't have any unpleasant experiences there, but we just knew that there was something better, and there is already a Houndstown in Smyrna, which is a suburb of Nashville, and she's there right now. We've taken her there before.
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
We know that she has
Right.
the exact experience that we want her to have, and that we're going to soon be offering too. And Nashville, in the city, it is such a dog-friendly city that restaurants all over town let you bring your dog in, not just on patios, but they're letting you bring them into the facilities, bars. They're in inner city dog parks all over popping up. So we know that Nashville has a ton of dogs in the market, and so hopefully we're going to be able to step in and offer them a really wonderful service.
Yeah, definitely.
And Mike, what I like too is just our circle of friends in the city. Everyone is so enthusiastic and excited about what we're doing. They really want to be a part of it. They want to help. They want to help us, network, bring in dogs, refer, all of it.
And it's very exciting, obviously, for all of us. We're business partners, basically, so we rely on your entrepreneurial senses and Stephanie's ability to manage. So we rely on you. You rely on us. That's what franchising is all about. It's a business relationship, and I feel 100% confident that Nashville you'll be welcoming Nashville, and Nashville will be welcoming you, because what we're going to do, for those of you listening, if you happen to be listening in Nashville, the franchise is going to offer you, or they're going to offer you a free week of daycare. So Absolutely. You don't have to wonder. And when they say a free week, they mean there's no hidden charges. There's not going to be sign on the dotted line. So when you have this, they're so confident. We're so confident that you're going to enjoy your experience, and better, frankly, we don't talk poorly about our competitors. As they said, they had a good experience, but you're gonna have a better experience at a better price point. That's a fact of life. So you're gonna come to, what's the name? What do we call it? Downtown? What do we call Houndstown Nashville?
Yes.
Okay, Houndstown, Nashville. It's on Hermitage Avenue. You follow them on Facebook. How do they follow you? Is there a way to do that? I don't know anything about Facebook. Tell them how to follow you on Facebook.
Yeah, we have the business page Houndstown Nashville on Facebook, and then there's also the private group for Houndstown Nashville on Facebook as well. And we also have an Instagram account, Houndstown Nashville.
Whatever those things are, they're great. I know it's great because that's really how we do a lot of our... We develop a family of friends and customers on our Facebook page. I don't personally do it, but I know that we do it. And when you join the Facebook page, you become what we call a townie. Somebody, it's part of almost kind of a cult, very honestly. We develop just a whole big group of very loyal followers. And as I said, when they'll be announcing their grand opening on Facebook, and they're going to give away on the opening a free temperament test, no cost. Temperament test means you bring your dog, we see how the dog does and how well he's going to acclimate, and then you're going to have a week to bring your dog as much as you want. So that's saying that we're confident in what we do. And by the way, this is huge. How big is your facility?
7,200 square feet. So we'll have 5 huge playrooms. We'll have 35 overnight kennels with 14 of them with capacity for multiple dogs. Yeah. And we just have a ton of space, brand new building, right off of it's First Street, right off of downtown. Our signage is up. We're ready to go. You'll see the construction, so we're getting close. Yeah.
No, they're very close, and it's very exciting. It's 7,200 square feet of temperature-controlled environment for dogs to play. So it's going to be incredible. I appreciate you guys. We're here doing training. What do you feel about this? So how this works is, folks, we, the franchisor, us, we provide training for our franchisees. We have to make sure that Nashville has the same experience as they do in Las Vegas and so forth. So you're here for training. Everybody comes here with a different set of expectations or not really knowing what's going to happen. So both of you, if you don't mind, sharing what this first 2 days of training has been like.
It's been really eye-opening in a good way, simply because I think every part of the process has been vetted and perfected over the years. There's nothing left to chance. There's no question that I can ask about the most minute detail that you guys don't have an answer for, that you've probably learned through trials and tribulations. Right. And that's really the crux for me of a franchise, to have that support, the franchisor to have that support. I really, really appreciate the hands-on training with the dogs. That is so important. Having it in a manual to read is one thing, but actually having the sense and the experience to be able to do it with supervised professionals who have a lot more experience, to me, is something that we can take back, and it gives me a lot of confidence going back. And this is just day 2 of training. Okay. Go back after day 5.5 and continue this. We're going to be extremely comfortable with the whole process.
That's great. That's good input. What do you feel? How did you feel? You're coming here, you really didn't know what to expect or what's going to happen. So what was your experience like up till today?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Jeff just said. A lot of this is new to me, and I am learning in the classroom setting and in the facility with the dogs, but it's also not the first time I've heard any of this. I've been reading the documents and everything that's already been shared with us, and I know that when I leave here, that's not the last time I can ask these questions. I'm still going to have all of these resources available to us, and so that's incredibly important to me too.
Right. And one thing, and maybe you can answer this. So a lot of times, so the pet care business, it's not like a restaurant where you learn how to flip hamburgers, whatever it is. That is very transferable, right? There's no doubt about it. You follow a guideline, you can cook a hot, whatever the franchise is. So future franchisees, people listening say, I would love to do this, but I can't. I don't know that much about dogs. And we don't breed discriminate, by the way, out there. If you're listening, we do not breed discriminate. We welcome all dogs, deaf dogs, blind dogs. As long as they enjoy the experience we're offering, they're welcome to come. So I had to get that plug in to make sure, because it's offensive to me. It doesn't happen so much anymore, but it's offensive. And it's offensive to many of our customers that have Rottweilers, Pit Bulls, Dobermans, that up 5 years ago, they weren't allowed to bring their dogs to a lot of facilities. So with that said, you come in here, and as I always say, I prefer people don't even know which end of a dog is which, because we can teach you that. So do you feel, though, that I can, you could come in, almost anybody could come in the system if they want to learn, they can learn?
Absolutely. I think if you come in with an open mind, not, predetermined type, measures or thoughts about how you want to run a facility, really follow the program. Think about really what it is to manage dogs, and they're very different from what we are, and just really respect the dog, keep the dog's safety in mind, and really just run it as a process just to keep everything running smoothly. I think anyone can really come in and put their mind to it, and the commitment and everything else, it'll be successful.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. I have to get in this where I know I'm getting a wrap-up sign. One question was, so we have a question of the week, because frankly, some of our podcast listeners, it's the Dish on Dogs. They want to learn about the dogs. And lately we have, because of COVID and everything, we've been gravitating more towards the business of franchising. But we have a question from Space Coast, and it really ties in well to our conversation we're having here. And the question is, how do you manage a dog's energy? What is the process of managing the dog's energy? So that's something that we've actually been talking about for the last 2 days, is you balance the energy by your actions and your rituals. When you change your rituals around, I'm assuming what you say, balance the energy, I'm assuming you mean when the doorbell rings, the dog gets out of balance, or it sees something outside, or it sees another dog, the dog gets out of balance. So how do we balance that energy? Teach the dogs the experience. And you do that by not doing much. It's really just changing simply how you look at the dog, how and if you should talk to the dog, and how you touch the dog. And we're going to have an episode specifically on that. We have in the past, we say don't look, talk, or touch, which sounds a little foreign. When I said that to you guys, I said the first thing, don't look, talk, or touch the dogs. It's counterintuitive, and it's actually frustrating.
Yeah.
Very.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I watch people's energy, but when you do that, just experiment with it. And that is going to balance the energy from highly aroused to sleeping. Those are the spectrum. The dog's sleeping on this dog bed snoring, and he's jumping out the door barking. So balance is somewhere in the middle. Of course you want him to go greet somebody at the door, but you don't want him lunging out the window or lunging at another dog. So you balance energy. It's never the dog. It's always the human, and the dog is without his natural pack. So now you are it. So now you have to mimic to some degree what the dog understands, how he understands, and how he views the world. Remembering, they don't have thumbs, and they're only about 18 inches off the ground. So they have to navigate through our crazy world. And trust me, to a dog, our world is crazy. Trucks, horns, sirens. It's a mess. So we have a very simple way of doing it, and it's a lot simpler than most people think. The way you'll learn this even better, I have a book coming out called The Dish on Dogs, and it will explain scenario after scenario of how to do that. And it's really quite simple. Guys, thank you for joining us on The Dish on Dogs. Thank you for listening, watching. Cooper, how do people, it's Facebook, wait, how do you learn this? No, not learn it, where do you see it? You see it wherever you get a podcast.
Facebook, YouTube.
Yeah, Facebook, YouTube.
Podcast, Spotify.
Everywhere. It's in this little phone here. So thanks for calling. Listen in next week, every Monday night, 8 o'clock. We try to send out a podcast. It's a lot of fun. Questions of the week. Let your local franchisee, wherever you are, find a Houndstown location near you. Ask them the question, the behavioral question, or any question related to dogs, and we'll answer it specifically for you on an episode on The Dish on Dogs. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.